And welcome to our relationship with writing. My name is KT Carlisle,
I'm Anthony Lafusi.
and today we are going to talk about beta readers. But before I do that, because there's a reason why I picked this topic,
Why?
let's talk
What?
about why or what we've been doing with our projects.
Okay, yeah.
Because we're at a very
Yeah.
critical stage for a number of things. I just finished up Intuition.
Right.
And I just got all the beta reader feedback back from that. I implemented it. I sent it to my editor. My editor sent me her feedback. I implemented all that feedback and I formatted the dang thing and it's done. That book is done
Thank you.
so.
Ready.
And now I'm at the beginning stages of that same process with another book
Yes.
called My Father's Daughter, which I just sent out to beta readers yesterday. And you are doing fun things.
Yeah, I'm working through some edits with my first novel, Table Scraps. It's a supernatural, I don't know, action comedy
Yeah.
script. It's fun and unique. I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, everybody. I'm on
He doesn't.
I don't. This is I've done a few drafts of the book in the past, and I kind of shelved it so I could work on other things. I wasn't very confident, I wasn't sure what I should do. But recently, I've decided to just shake the dust, just fix it. I can fix it.
I'm so glad you did because I love this book. It's a lot of fun. It's very clever. It takes a lot of existing lore that we all know and love and revamps it and adds things to it that are really unexpected and just really fun. I love it.
Thank
I love
you.
it. It's a great book.
But yeah, I once I get through this, that's part of why we're talking about this. Like, I don't even know what beta readers are all about.
Well, let me tell
Okay, like
you.
I'm curious. So if you're out there and you're like, why would anyone need read? Why do we do? Are there alpha readers and beta readers? What's
Yes.
going? I see. There you go.
Yeah.
And I have so many questions, and I need to know if this is something that's right for me. It seems like it's a good thing. It's very helpful, like from what
Yeah.
you said. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first thing first, let's define what a beta reader is. And it's great that you said, are there alphas and betas? I didn't even know that there were alpha and beta readers until very recently, but there are. So an alpha reader is like what you are to me, the
Okay.
person who is as you're writing, you kind of bounce ideas off of. You might also refer to them as a critique partner, where you're kind of as you're writing, this is the your person that you go to as your sounding board.
Okay, gotcha.
And then after you're done
I like the
writing,
idea of the alpha reader, so then I can just be like, ay, 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 like Power Rangers. That's my response every time you tell me you read your passages to me. I become this weird robot,
I
and we
mean,
fix it.
that is kind of basically what happens because you do your little ay ay ay, and then we fix whatever it was that made you do that.
Pretty much. That's alpha reader is spot on for me. I
That's
like this. That's what an alpha reader is.
But a beta reader is what comes after that. So you have your first draft written. Maybe you did a round of self edits first, which I always like to do because then it makes me feel better that I'm not just sending off a pile of hot
Right.
garbage to the people who were kind enough to be like, "Hey, I will
Right.
read your book and critique it for you." Which is what a beta reader is. So this is your uh completed manuscript
Okay.
you're giving to a set. I say no more than three because then it's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Gotcha.
You got so many people flying. I mean, some people have, I've seen as many as 8 beta readers for one
Wow.
project. And personally, I think it's excessive. And I think you're gonna run into issues of self-doubt or conflicting
That's
things
fair.
here and there. So
I think the one thing people, I mean, from the outside, it, I hear more people and I think like, oh, bigger sample size to understand if the
right.
problem works. But then again, I can see where that would become complicated. If people have
Yeah.
conflicting ideas, you could just become like, you could feel like that pit of despair of like, oh, there's so much wrong with the book, when in fact,
Right.
some of them may have like faulty
Exactly.
perspectives or just not
Yeah.
be the reader necessarily the audience for that book.
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
Yeah. Um, and so a beta reader is there to really go through your manuscript and provide that feedback that you're
Okay.
talking about, their initial thoughts on things, any plot points that, or plot holes rather, that they might have spotted. inconsistencies within the story that maybe you might have overlooked, and things of that nature. They're not really getting into the nitty-gritty of like technical like grammar or punctuation or formatting.
Right.
All that stuff is for your editor, which will come after you've collected all your beta reader feedback and then implemented it. But for the most part, beta reader is very valuable, I'd say, and pretty essential to the entire production process of whether you're going to query your book or you're going to self-publish it. You want to have people that you trust who are in your corner, who understand what your vision is for the book. Those three things are really important. Trust, understanding, and the ability to provide constructive feedback.
Yeah, it sounds like the beta reader is basically an active reader as opposed to like a passive reader that a general audience or like general reader may be. Someone who would just like kind of skim through and be like, oh yeah, it's a pretty good story, whereas the beta reader is going to be more active and like proactively looking for issues with the book and recognizing
Yeah.
how it makes them feel instinctively or immediately, but also how generally the story cohesively goes together. And if it does,
Exactly.
okay.
And I think that before you send off to your beta readers, it helps to give them a little bit of a breakdown of, first of all, what your book is and what it's about, but also the specific kind of feedback that you're looking for. Because I think as writers, and you're as close to the story as you can be, you know what its flaws are, kind of. You have a pretty good idea. Or
Yeah.
you might have maybe not an idea of what the flaws are, but some insecurities
Right.
about specific parts.
If you want those reinforced, these people will help.
Or
Or go on.
they could be come back to you and say, no, this
No,
was
there you
great.
go. That's
Maybe
hopefully
if
the
you
case.
tweak this one
Yes.
small thing, it might be better.
But
Maybe that's what you were insecure about. But
yes. And also there's nothing wrong with having your insecurities be validated because
yeah,
what that tells you is you recognize when something doesn't work, which means you can also be the one who acknowledges when something is fixed.
yeah,
You
a
know?
hundred
So that's
percent.
good.
And
Sometimes you need that.
yeah, I think so. And I think that as much as you are like my alpha reader, you're also like a really good beta reader too, because you're able to separate yourself from the like what
Yeah.
your roles are at different stages.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah, you succeed.
Thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Mm-hmm.
can I ask because I know there are going to be some people watching right now who are going to be like, I can't even get people to read, like I can't get anyone to read my book.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to find people to read my book to help me actively like find these things if I can't get them to read it in the first place,
Yeah.
let alone pay for it in the future?
Right.
So, what are some things? What are some strategies that people can employ in order to find beta readers?
Right. And well, I think this goes back to the other show that we did on social media marketing and
Sure.
just finding your community, wherever that may be. For
Yeah.
me, it's on Twitter, X, whatever the hell we want to call it. It's Twitter. But when I post on Twitter, I literally will just put out like a call to action, like, hey, I have this manuscript. It's about to be completed, or it will be ready on X date. This is what it's
On
about.
Twitter Day.
Yeah. This is what it's gonna be ready. This is what it's about. The audience, the word count, as many details about it as you can provide, so that people understand what it is that they're in for, and
Hmm.
people will respond. But then it's up to you because, like, for me, when I post things like that, I get a pretty like good response. So I get, probably a dozen or so people like raising their hands like, yeah, pick me. But you can't pick every single one, right?
Right.
You have to vet them properly because this is somebody you're sending your entire work to.
Are there, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt. Are there any events? Because if there aren't, we should make one.
I
They're
think
so
it's a great
they're
idea.
so
Let's
simple.
do
It's
it.
so simple. Like, okay,
Yeah.
if you're out there right now and you're thinking like, man, it's hard to find beta readers, comment below and let us know if you'd like to be involved in something like this. And maybe we can find people who want to participate in like a beta buddy event where you
I
find people to
love this.
swap books
First of
with.
all, the alliteration is what? It's gorgeous.
But because I think it makes sense. There are a lot of people out there. I know like because I struggled with that. Like it's hard enough to get like people in your like we have a good situation now, but this
Yeah.
is very unique and very lucky for
Right.
us.
Yeah.
You'll always read anything I write, and I'll always read everything you write, and that's
100%.
great. Not everyone has that. I've never had that before this. It's always been like pulling teeth trying to get
Yeah.
anyone to read, anything, even if you're happy about it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited for anyone to read this. And it's like the people closest to you just don't care. Everyone's busy, everyone's doing their own thing. We're wrapped up in our own lives.
It's
And I get it.
understandable.
It's totally.
It might not even be that they don't care, they don't support you,
Mhm.
or whatever it might feel like in that moment. It just is just like, I think we can all relate to the fact that like life gets really busy, and even though you might really want to, like I love beta reading books, and it just got to a point pretty recently where people have started reaching out to me directly like,
Yeah.
hey, can you beta read this? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't. So it might not be that they're not interested, because I mean, more than half of the ones, I mean, I want to beta read everything if I can, but I just don't have the time to,
Yeah.
unfortunately, anymore
Yeah.
the way I used to. But there are people out there who do and who will. And the greatest part about it is they'll do it for free.
Yep.
Most beta readers are not getting paid to
Right.
do it. Some of them you can find, and you might pay for them to do so. If you can't find any for free, I do highly recommend it. At least one or two, if you're able to find them for a reasonable price. It should not be more than like 200. If they're charging more than that,
I,
then it kind
honestly,
of gets a little,
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can, if you have the means and you want to find someone who will like comb through your book and beta
yeah.
read for money, then of course, by all means, find those people, and they're definitely out there. But otherwise, like, I would suggest going on Reddit and finding communities, going on Facebook and finding groups,
Yeah,
going
right?
on, go on various social media platforms and
Yes.
just see where the readers are and where writers are. And often it's going to be similar to social media as a whole. It's going to be a matter of like getting getting back what you put in.
Yeah.
If you're willing to be a beta reader for other writers, then you're more likely going to, then it's more likely for you to find a beta reader yourself.
That is 100% the case, I
Yeah.
find, and that's just true, like you said, with social media in general, is it's very give and take.
Yeah.
There's a lot of karmic energy going on there, so if you got to put out what you want to get back.
Yeah.
Um, But as far as, putting that out there and saying, I want this beta reader, so let's say you get a good response, how do you vet them?
Yeah. Good question.
So the way that I always vet them is I take a look at what their credentials are, some of them, and so I just like look at their bio, the kinds of things that they're posting.
Okay.
And I'll see, is this somebody who I think I can trust their opinion on things? Like I understand where they're coming from, or they have like a certain type of expertise that I might be looking
Okay.
for, something like that. Another thing that I'll look for is, are they a fellow author? Do they have works that are, in line with my genre? Um, are they familiar with this type of work that they can provide that kind of valuable feedback that I'm looking for? If
Right.
they're not an author, do they have like a Goodreads account? Are they an avid reader? Are they reviewing works that I've either comped to my book or have read before, or am interested in reading?
Right.
Those kinds of things. So all of those can be easily found just by doing a little bit of, amateur sleuthing.
So stalk people, and
Spot
eventually
people.
you'll find people to read your book. So beta readers can do, a bunch of things. I know it's some of that. Some people would say that they're looking for like reinforcement in the good as well. But you don't want people to just simply praise your work, right?
Right. You want somebody who's going to be honest with you about what those flaws or insecurities are.
So how do you think like these people watching right now, how can you approach a beta reader in a way that'll let them know what your intention is and what you're hoping to get from them, and that to make them comfortable telling you things in a way that, will be constructive?
Yeah, I would so that's a great question, because I literally just did this yesterday, where I collected all my beta readers, put them in one email, and I said, "Hey, this is a book that I wrote. This is the second book that I ever wrote. I'm aware that I have grown a lot since that time,
Fair.
and I'm polishing something that wouldn't necessarily be up to my standards today.
Right.
So I'm aware that there are some things, there's a lot more heavy lifting involved here. So feel free to call out anything that you think is weak, and needs to be stronger. Anything that doesn't make sense to you, plot holes that you might find, things like that. So those are like my specifics. That's kind of general with all of my projects, the
Okay.
things that I'm working or looking for. Um, but it might be different for you. You know, you might want a beta reader for literally just one part of your book. You might want a beta reader to look at a specific character that you're not sure of. You know, so
So
different.
if you have issues in mind, you may as well point them out
Yep.
to them so they can have a keen eye when reading because like I feel like I would want a control as well. Like so I'd want to do like I'd want to tell people or like suggest to some people, "Hey, I'm looking for issues with Terry." For
Right.
specifically, but then I wouldn't say that to the other person to see if they point out issues with Terry
Yeah.
and to see like who comes up with more of the or if they come up with about the same thing regardless, that's
Right.
interesting, or you see how much of an issue it is.
It is interesting to see the correlation between the beta feedbacks because like I said, like I always have like 2 to 3. And it always blows my mind that without fail, like either both of them or like 2 out of the 3 or all 3 of them
Mhm.
will call out the exact same part of the story and
Mhm.
say something. And that's a big indicator
Right.
that either that thing that they called out, whether if they're praising it, then that's working. You
Yeah,
better keep that.
that's awesome.
Or if they're all calling it out and saying, hey, this is weird, it doesn't sound right, or it's confusing, or whatever the, critique might be, you gotta fix that shit
Yeah,
because it's not gonna work.
something's not working.
But I think that, yeah, like as long as you're like upfront about what your expectations are and you give them, clear guidelines on, the things that you're insecure about.
What about people who know that they're a bit sensitive because the work is very close to them, or just just we're all writers and we want our work to be good and we know it needs work, but it's still like some people get a bit sensitive and they don't want to hear that their work is trash.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? Because I know like we've heard in the past like people have asked us basically to handle their work with kid gloves, so to speak.
Yeah.
But like what would you say to that? Because it's tricky, right?
It is tricky. And I would say again, just be upfront with them.
Yeah.
Tell them, I am this way. I have this insecurity. This is, or this is my first time. And I'm very new to this, and I just need some encouragement. If you tell people that more often than not, they're gonna come back and give you that encouragement and
Yeah.
tell you the things that you did
But
right. Maybe even ask for them for that, like, hey, can you just point out the things that you really enjoyed?
yeah.
And maybe start there. And then once you realize, okay, so I did all these things right. These people really love this part. Maybe that'll then give you the confidence to explore the things that are maybe not so great,
I like
that
that.
need a little bit more work.
I like that. That's a good point. Because I think overall, everyone would agree that they want their work to be the best that they can do.
Yeah, of
Right? And,
course.
and and we all know that what we write today is, for the most part, not going to be as good as what we can write tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? That being said, we're not going to put off writing until tomorrow. We have to get there. I have to be the writer I am today so I can become the writer I will be tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And I think because we all have that in common, we should try our best to the best of our ability to get to a point where we can accept constructive criticism
Yeah.
when it is that. And I understand that,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people out there who are giving criticism and none of it's constructive.
Right.
And I understand that there are a lot of people who don't understand the intention of an author, don't understand, what you're trying to do with your book. So like, they want it to be Jane Austen, but it's Stephen King, and you're like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like you can't try to cookie cut my book into something it's
Right.
not. And I think that's a fear that a lot of authors
Yeah.
have when they're handing their
Of
baby over to
course.
someone else. They're
Absolutely.
like they don't want it to come home in like a tux if they're
Yeah.
like it's supposed to,
Yeah. Well, I think that that's where that due diligence comes in, where you're,
yeah,
stalking your beta readers
stalk
online.
those
But
readers.
like, you need to make sure that their vision for your work aligns with yours, so that
That's
you're
good.
not getting that, um, your wires crossed there. Especially when it comes to voice, because you don't want to sacrifice your
Right.
voice
I mean,
to
that's really
make it
all we
into
have.
something that somebody else wants.
Exactly.
And I think that's a good segue into how to implement that feedback once you get it back.
Yeah,
So
so
your beta readers have done their job. Oh, it also helps when you reach out to them to give them some sort of timeline, like when you expect to
of
have
course.
feedback, so that and don't be afraid to nudge them, like especially like recently for intuition. I gave my beta readers a certain time frame, and then my editor came back and was like, "Hey, I actually need this like about a week sooner. Could you do that?" And I was like, "Well, I gotta ask my beta readers if that's okay." And I did, and I lit a little bit of a fire under their ass, and all but one was able to get it back to me. So
It
it,
works.
it
Yeah.
did work. And thank you again, Amanda and Kaylee. You guys are freaking awesome. You really helped me put this book like just it's so good. It's so good. I can't wait for everybody to see it. But anyway.
I'm editing
Okay.
all that out.
So you get all your beta feedback returned to you, and it's time to go through it all. I would say go through it one by one and do it, just comment by comment. If you had them insert comments into the document itself, which I recommend that you do because it makes it a little bit easier to get to points that they're talking about. Go ahead and open up that document that they sent back with their comments and just start going through them one by one. And then do that with each one until you've gotten through all of them, and then see where those, that Venn diagram is of like, did they overlap on certain things? Did they call out certain things that are problematic? Did they call out certain things that are working really well that they all unanimously loved? So that way you understand what it is that you can keep and what it is that needs some more work. And then, of course, have those things that you're unwilling to budge on.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's your book. And unless it is something that everybody has called out across the board that definitely needs another pass,
Right.
I think it's okay to sometimes be like, no, I'm sorry, I disagree. I'm going to keep it this way. Or, you make a good point. Maybe I'll make this small change, but I'm not going to overhaul this section the way you think that it needs. This small change should suffice.
Mm.
So I think that doing things like that and taking that approach versus like getting, your feathers ruffled and like,
Right.
all upset, like, because it can be overwhelming,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
You're going through
Especially if
this
you have
document
several
and
of them.
there's like tons of comments and everything. Like it can be like a little discouraging sometimes. I remember I got feedback from Kaylee of all people who I was like, oh my God, there's so many comments. And like she even said in the beginning, she was like, I know this looks like nothing but negative, but that's because it's the only negative I could find. I'm like, well, that made me feel good, but also, damn, girl, there's so much.
Yeah.
But I think it's good to take it all in, put it aside,
Hmm.
come back to it again after you've had a moment to digest.
Right. Like
Because
you say
when
terrible
you
things about the betas, you write it down, you burn them in effigy, you curse their name, you learn voodoo, you create a little doll with their hair, and you're like, oh, I love this book. And no, you don't do that. That's not how you
that's not how
that's not how
I
you do
do
beta
it.
readers. That's how I'm just saying. You should
I
learn.
guess do you, but like that's not how I'm doing it.
No, so you absorb it, but you take a second
Yeah.
to see, to see
Yeah.
what settles. So like you
Because
digest.
yeah, I'll be honest, like after I got that email from Kaylee, I was like, I don't even want to look at my book right now. I just
Yeah.
don't. And so I put it to the side, and then the next day I went back on it and I was like, she does have a point. Let me just
Hmm.
open up this document and see. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm in
Done.
it
Yeah.
and I'm going and it's great. And again, Kaylee, this is not me shitting on you. You're awesome and I love you and you're the best. So I think having that mentality and understanding like when you need to separate yourself from the overwhelming amount of, feedback that you've just received, and then taking that time to actually implement it.
Right.
And, just do it little by little. Doesn't have to be all done in a day. I know as writers, we can be impatient. It's such a laborious task to finish a manuscript. And then once you do, you're like, oh, like I did it. I have my
I'm not
book.
done.
And
Yeah.
then you're like, dang it, I'm not even like close to finish. So, but you are though. Like I know it seems like it could be like insurmountable especially at this stage. Like you just did this
It's
Huge
crazy.
thing.
It's like planting your flag at the top of the
Yeah.
mountain, then realizing you're like not even halfway up
Oh,
Everest. You're like, oh,
another summit to go. All right,
yeah,
let's do this. Put on the gear.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It does. It feels that way.
yeah,
It's daunting, but
yeah,
it's worth it.
it
You
is.
can improve your book
Hmm.
significantly, and I like what you said before about not taking everything to heart, or not thinking that you have to accept
Right.
every note.
Yeah.
It's not that you're letting other people, chisel your book away. It's just it's taking other perspectives into account,
Yes.
so then you know what readers are going to be seeing over time. And
Yeah.
like if there are holes there, they exist, whether or not you want them to. And if
Hmm.
and you have the ability to do something about that before publishing your book. And
Yeah.
it's a good tool to have.
100%. And I would say, like, more so with the betas than your editor, you have a lot more freedom there to pick and choose what kind of feedback you're going to
That's
listen
fair.
to. With your editor, I would say they're professionals for a reason, and most of the things that they're going to tell you should be implemented. Especially you paid these people to, you know, go through your work with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah.
Um, they should be listened to up to a certain extent. Obviously I would
Okay.
say like 90% of the things that they do, and then that extra 10%, like 1 out of 10 comments, you can be like, yeah, no.
Yeah, there's always going to be an exception, but I think, but it seems to me that finding the right beta readers for your book is something that's very beneficial to most people if they're able to do it. I
Absolutely.
do like the idea of creating a beta buddy, event
Why is this not a
where
thing?
it seems like
We're
it should be a
making
thing.
it a thing.
So
It's a thing now.
yeah, yeah.
Watch
You let
out,
us know if
beta
you're
buddy.
interested. If you need betas, we can just have a bunch of people to use the hashtag, and you can find each other and find
Beta
books that way. Yeah.
buddy.
So yeah, write it on Twitter, say hashtag beta buddy, and see what happens. Anyway, how do you want to?
Betas, buddies, Battlestar Galactica. What is happening? Thank you for watching our relationship with writing. I hope you enjoyed our little talk about beta readers, where you can find them, what they do, how you can implement their feedback, all those good things. If you like our show, you want to make comments below about, how you found your beta readers, or if you have questions about how
Yes.
to find them, or if you want to participate in our Beta Buddy program, that would be awesome. So yeah, tell us all about that in the comments below. We'll be bringing another show at you next week.
Yeah.
If you want to find us, go ahead and look me up on Twitter. That's at KT underscore Carlisle, Carlisle. That is me. You can also go to www.ktcarlisle.com.
If you want to find me, you can find me at Anthony Lafusi. I'm also on YouTube every week at We Have Issues podcasts, and you can see that show. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see you next week. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being a part of this and joining us. Make sure you comment below, hit the like button if you can. Just tell your friends about us and our little show, so we get help in the algorithm. Maybe more people will find us. We can help more books get out there to the readers.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we did it.
We did
We
it.
freaking did it.
I
Yeah,
love
we
you.
did. She said it for
I
the
did.
first time.
That's not the
That
first
wasn't the first
time.
time. That was like the third time.
Higher.
I've been. I'm glad you love me though. It's pretty cool. It's neat.
I'm
It's
gonna marry you.
yeah. We're engaged. That's pretty neat. That's pretty cool.
Wait,
Yeah.
I was just joshing.
Hey,
You
about our
know this
relationship,
ring means something?
but we found our venue,
Mm-hmm.
right? You got
We
your wedding
did.
dress.
I got my wedding dress! You guys!
I can't see it.
So
I
good!
feel like I'm being left out, and everyone knows something that I don't know.
Like run off to my closet to go look at it about 50 times a day.
Yeah, and I have to do like a Mission Impossible. I drop down from the ceiling like doom doom dun 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 dun. I can't see this wedding dress, and it's just not fair. I'm trying. It's a heist. I don't know why I'm trying to steal your wedding dress. I'll see it eventually.
Please,
Next
please
year
don't
on our
steal my
birthday.
wedding dress.
I won't.
I said our wedding dress. Now you have to wear it.
I think it'll fit me. Like I'm pretty tall. It's gonna be real different.
Real.
Real. Yeah. That's an OnlyFans dress for me. Yeah, like I will see. Anyway,
Wow.
I don't know what the dress looks like. I've never seen it. I obviously. So yeah, that's what we're doing. That's where we are with our relationship. How are things going? Are we okay?
I give us about a billion out of 10.
That's it? I'm
Yeah.
failing. I'm failing. I'm failing. I love you.
I love
I
you.
love you. You excited for Valentine's Day? Yeah,
Yeah.
you get me anything?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got
Oh
you. I
yeah.
got you. I got
I
you.
spoiled you. I never spoiled anybody before on Valentine's Day. I never really like.
Hang on. I don't like not I like wait. I got you one
Yeah,
thing.
I got you one thing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
One thing.
one thing. But it's a really cool thing.
I always win gifts. She acts like she wins gifts.
Oh no, I'm winning this one.
She's watch, you'll see.
I'm winning.